Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Devy Hour. You probably have missed us for a little while. It's been a few weeks since we've been able to get together, but that's what football season does to us. We're getting ready and we're ramping up for rookie season, and we're handling in-season start sits and all the things that we do over here at Roto Heat, trying to pump out all sorts of content to help keep you guys informed and good to go. But now we are looking forward to 2021 as well. So just a FYI for those of you that are going to tune in, rookie draft guide. We're going to have it. We're going to have offense. We're going to have defense. We're working on getting that done now. Guys are already starting to evaluate and look into the prospects for next year's draft. So keep it locked into rotoheat.com. We've got a ton of great content coming. But we're going to talk a little bit about what we've already done. So a couple weeks back, some of you saw that we did our way too early Superflex and 1QB mocks. Our 1QB mock had lots of interesting takes. We had lots of people that over on YouTube, we appreciate it, and we love that you guys comment. Some of you guys saw things a little differently than we did. So we kind of wanted to review and look at and see how a month later looks, maybe some things that we see differently now that we've had another month of football. And kind of go from there. So this show probably won't be as long as some of our other shows. It'll probably be quick because a lot of this I don't expect to change a lot, but there are some changes. So without further ado, at the 101, we let our boy Craig, who is obviously not with us here to defend himself, go first. He took Jamar Chase. Obviously, we had some folks on YouTube go, there's no way wide receiver goes 101 overall. And that's true. In a lot of leagues, 101 is running back. Paul, what do you think about that, and how are you feeling about Chase as a top 3 pick?
I mean, he opted out, so it's not like we have any film on him for this season. It's almost more of a tier thing. Will he end up being first overall? Probably not. Will he end up as being the first receiver? Yeah, I still think so. It's just the top. Well, our second selection's not going to be in there, but I mean the top 4, 5, 6 are all kind of in their own tier. I probably still have Chase in a tier on his own, but when you start seeing running backs land, sure, fine, but that's a road that will hit on May 1st, not November. Well, it's almost December 1st, but yeah, we'll get there in 6 months.
Yeah, very true. I mean, and that's the tough thing is, in rookie drafts, typically running back is king. I mean, we see it all the time where guys shoot up the boards, and and even in this last year, the conversation was, well, is it Jonathan Taylor? Is it Dobbins? Is it Swift? CEH moved up the boards. I mean, running back always does. It's always a hot commodity. Also because they have such a short shelf life. I mean, 3 to 5, maybe 6 years of value depending on the player and the team and the position. And I mean, it's such a tough position, and that guys just they jump on them early. It just is what it is. And obviously, you mentioned the number 2 pick. The number 2 pick, unfortunately, is not going to play football ever again. Journey Brown, running back, Penn State, was your choice at the 2. That sucks. Great player, great talent, but he's got to be smart with his health.
Yeah, not a doctor, never will be. Yeah, it just sucks. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. It's not like anyone in the Devy community even said, "Hey, this guy's hurt." No one knew. Like, it sucks. You move on. I drafted him in one league, or I won him in a rookie Devy auction, but I probably spent the 3rd round selection on him. I saw him in a couple of my other leagues. He went in the 1st round, and yeah, you're just looking at someone that you immediately cut. I mean, I would hold him if you had the roster spot just to see. We've had a couple guys. I know he didn't work out in the NFL, but Jarvis Jones, 10 years ago or so, he broke his neck, and then Georgia was like, "Hey, are you interested? we think you're healing. The guy goes in the first. One guy who it's looking like that's going to happen with also, um, Jalen Phillips in Miami. Um, UCLA, he had neck issues, and he'll be someone that we give you a scouting report for, assuming that he heads out this year.
Yep.
He probably should, but I wouldn't give up all hope for Brown, but yeah, that's a pretty big downer there.
Yeah, something that you never can tell when it's going to happen. It can strike at any time, and you just whoop. It stinks because the news came out very quickly after the video dropped on YouTube. So I did love the comment. Well, that Journey Brown pick didn't age well. 12 hours later, it's like, well, yep, that's unfortunately the way that it happens. And like we mentioned last in those shows, we're going to do these mocks monthly. We're going to hit them up each month until we get to the draft, so that you guys can see kind of our up to date based on our thoughts and what we're doing. We'll probably include some IDP mocks as well, because IDP is just as valuable. There's going to be some super talented IDP options coming out this year. At the 103, I took Travis Etienne, which I'm guessing is probably going to be in consideration for 101 in most leagues, unless he goes to just a really terrible spot. So let's say he's a DeAndre Swift type that lands in a team like Detroit where you've got multiple running backs. Well, if Etienne goes to a team that's got other running backs that maybe aren't old, but he has to kind of figure out how he fits in there. I could see him slipping a little, but most likely he's probably 101 consideration in most 1 QB drafts. What do you think?
It's actually funny that we're filming this as we're watching the Cardinals and Seahawks. So, you know what? Let's just put ETN on the Seahawks and just watch every fantasy owner of every running back out of all 800 of them that they own go, my guy is the guy. That'd be a funny spot for him.
It would be.
It's going to be landing spot. He could go first overall. He could be someone that the NFL advisories saw something on and said, hey, you shouldn't come out yet. And he's someone who goes in the early to mid second round. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just saying there's more risk associated with him than some of the other names we're going to mention.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting with a guy like that. For so long, people have kind of anointed him kind of the next big running back, along with his quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits into the NFL and where he goes. With running backs, landing spot is always huge. But some players can outplay the landing spot. So Swift, we're starting to see Swift really take over the role in Detroit. And Carrion hasn't looked bad. He just isn't getting the opportunity. Swift's just run away with it. So ETN has that ability to take it and run with it once he gets to wherever he is. But it's, if he goes to a place that has 2-3 other running backs that are productive and have potential, it's like, well, it's gonna be tough on how you draft him in your rookie draft.
Yeah.
Okay, 1-4 was Kenneth Gainwell to running back Memphis.
He's someone I've seen rise consistently. I know everyone over the offseason or this last offseason was kind of, hey, I like him, but didn't love him. We're going back and watching a second and third time through. Also, he did opt out on the year, so we don't have any update really. But yeah, he's just someone that's 4, 5, 6 range. I've seen a lot. Out of Memphis, reminds me of George Howard Putt when he got 5 around the Memphis area. It's one for show.
That was a bit of a reach, but fair enough.
But yeah, he's been someone that's been steadily rising. From what I've seen.
And the interesting thing with him, he's one that I would have trouble with taking this high if. A lot of these guys I look to see kind of where some of the pundits are mocking him, and he gets mocked to the Cardinals a ton, who is a team we're currently watching on Thursday Night Football. I would struggle with him in that offense because Kenyon Drake, Chase Edmonds. Then you add Gainwell. I'm like, I know they run, probably 500 offensive snaps a season, but holy cow, what? I mean, that just would kill his value in my mind, at least for the next 2 years.
Oh, I'd be fine with that. I think Edmonds is crap, and Drake will be maybe re-signed, maybe not. I would be fine
Oh,
with
you think
that.
so?
I know the guy who said that the 1-1's not a receiver. In some respects, we should almost sit here and say, hey, the 1-1's a running back. The 1-2 or 1-3 is going to be Chase. The other one is going to be the second best landing running back. And you're saying, hey, I don't see it Gainwell at 4. If he lands fine,
It could be.
you have to be this high on him. Otherwise, you either don't own the selection or you're going to be trading the selection. Like, sorry, that's just how it'll play itself out. I got receivers I like behind him higher, but landing spot position,
Yeah. I don't hate it. I struggle with the first couple of years of his deal being surrounded by a bunch of other running backs that obviously Drake must have been a lot more hurt than we thought, because watching him tonight against Seattle, he looks really good. Like, he's been hitting the holes. He's been very decisive. Excuse me, very decisive. He's been showing a lot of burst, a bit of power. So I don't know. I mean, I like Gainwell the player. There's a few other places I think I'd rather see him go than somewhere like Arizona. I would love to see Arizona take one of these lesser type running backs that maybe you're a later second, third round type guy, Max Borghi, Trey Sermon, somebody like that. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. 1-5, Rashad Bateman, wide receiver, Minnesota. He's one that people seem to be kind of up and down on when I've been looking around to see where he's getting mocked to. Folks are still putting him as kind of a late first round pick wide receiver. I don't know that I see that, just because of how much talent there is on the offensive line coming out. There's a lot of interior offensive linemen that I think could kind of push their way into the middle to the back half of the first, and really push some of those wide receivers to the second round. But Bateman and Moore are both guys that I like a lot, that I think will do well in the league. Where do you think at 1-5 that we went a little early on him? This was actually you picking him, but
no.
This was the perfect spot.
No, yeah, he should be first overall. I'm fine with it. He's got so much natural talent. I haven't watched a ton of Minnesota, just because the Big Ten as a whole has been Nebraska, who can't win, Penn State, and Minnesota. Everyone thought, hey, this is the year for all three of them. No, it's just not happening. He'll be one that the 40 is going to be telling for, and I know it shouldn't. Hey, the 40 is everything, but we're not going to see much with what they have on offense this year. I haven't thoroughly watched him a lot this year. I've seen some, but he still looks like the athlete he was before.
Very true. I agree. Yeah, I think he is firmly in the conversation for the second, third, or fourth wide receiver taken. Because I really like Jalen Waddle, and I really like Rondale Moore as well. So it's hard for me to say a 1-5 for him makes sense, but it's hard for me not to. I expect Najee Harris to kind of push his way up into the top 5. I'm not sure that I would be the guy drafting him, but I know a lot of people are super high on him. So at least at this point, that could change. But a lot of people are saying it's Derrick Henry that can catch.
Oh, you mean so he should be a top 5 round selection? Because that's about where I have him.
Yeah, I know you're not. I know that you and I aren't as high on. I know that you're not nearly as high on him as I am, and I'm not all that high on him. I think he's probably more like a late second, third round running back, where you think he's more like a late fourth, fifth round running back. So
might even be lower than that. I might be lower than that. I just don't want a slow running back, but I mean, I missed on Derrick Henry, but I've also hit on Kamara just because I like the shiftiness in him. That's just what catches my eye. You miss on some, you hit on some.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially at running back. I mean, it's you get a lot of opportunities to miss and hit because they come and go so quickly. So after 1-5 was Bateman, 1-6 Waddle, which was me. That was a perfect spot for him because he's probably one of the better receivers in this draft class. Although if he goes, so it was interesting. I was listening to Lockdown NFL Draft, I believe was the pod I was listening to, and they mocked him to Detroit, I think. And if they pair him with Kenny
I
Galladay,
see
that would be a great spot. Then you don't have to worry about Danny
that. Yeah.
Amendola like that. I would be super excited about him there. I would keep him firmly in the top 10 if that was the case. Uh,
He broke his ankle. Also,
right,
just an
right,
FYI,
yeah,
we
yeah.
don't. I mean, we're not doctors, but we don't think that's a long-term
No,
issue.
it sounded like it was something that he should be recovered in time to do some of the combine activities and things like that. So I'm glad he did it earlier in the year. And that was the interesting thing. He was one that if he'd opted out, I'd have been like, there isn't really anything else for me to see with him. You kind of
Sure.
know who he is. Uh,
I'm not as high on him, but I'm also not going to sit here and be like, oh, he doesn't deserve to be a top 100. So, no, no, no. I just think he's more second, early, third round than first, early,
yeah,
second.
and it's always interesting to me when I listen to the pundits kind of do their NFL mocks, not fantasy rookie mocks, but the NFL mocks. You see a lot of them slide guys into the first round that are not going to make it first round. First round, you do see a run on receivers. I mean, we saw it this year, but that's not the norm. A lot of times you see some of these like early second round linemen get moved into the first round because you really have to you really know nowadays the way the NFL works is you can get those skill position players in the second and third round that are just as talented, and go get those offensive and defensive linemen earlier. So I always listen to it because it's interesting to see how the scouts and some of the guys that are connected to scouts do it, but I don't know that I agree necessarily because we don't see it enough. This year was different. I mean, obviously a ton of receivers went after pick, what was it 10, 11 or whatever the Henry Ruggs
Yeah.
pick was. We saw 5, I think, in the first round this year. I don't see that happening again this upcoming year because there's so much other talent. I could see 2 or 3 tight ends go in the first round for sure, with Jordan and Pitts and, potentially Fryermuth or however you rank them. But you know, uh, so 1-6 was Waddle, 1-7 Najee Harris, which neither one of us think is. He probably the way that rookie drafts work, unless he falls to a crappy spot, he's probably a first round rookie picking one QB. I would not tell you to do that. I would tell you to look. I like who was after him. Chuba Hubbard. I drafted him. I like Chuba better, and Chuba hasn't looked great, but he's starting to look better. Zamir White, who Craig took in the second round, I like him better. You took Trey Sermon at 2.5. I like him better. I mean, even Max Borghi at 2.8. I like him. It's like basically any other running back we took, I like better than Najee Harris. But
I'm deathly concerned he runs a 4.68, and everyone just goes, end of the second round for you, early third round rookie selection, move on. Because he doesn't catch the ball well. He just kind of does it. But we'll see. If he ends up being the fourth overall selection, I will not make that selection at all. But I'll have egg on my face.
right,
Had it before, I'll have it
yeah,
again.
yeah, we're not professionals. We just play them on TV. Let's see. So 1-7 was Najee, 1-8 Brevin Jordan. So we started to see the tight ends come off the board. Brevin Jordan is your and my favorite tight end in this class. But if this is Kyle Pitts, yep, that's fine. I
Yeah,
mean, you really can't
yeah,
hate either one of them.
yeah. 6 of one, half dozen the other. Do you want the one that's in Middle Florida or South
Right.
Florida? They're both big, fast. They have skills. I've seen nothing from him all season. That tells me he should not be a first round actual NFL selection.
Oh, absolutely. And the mocks that I've been looking at, Pitts, they keep mocking him to the Patriots. If he goes to the Patriots, he's going to make himself the top tight end drafted. The way that people love New England tight ends. And I'm not saying that I love New England tight ends, but fantasy league owners love them.
Someone will.
I would still probably go Brevin Jordan, but Kyle Pitts going to New England is a smart move because they need a tight end like him. He's not going to be blocking. He's going to be making big plays and doing the things that you need him to do. He's a move tight end.
Also, on the other end of this, I know this is a one QB league, or mock. If you're playing a Superflex TE Premium League, and you're selecting whichever one that you like higher, 4th overall. Yeah, I can see it. Whichever one lands in a spot that they're just going to be awesome.
Right.
4th overall. The 2 QBs. Well, the one I hate the other one, but whoever lands highest out of the running backs, Chase. Actually, that would be 4. So
5. Yeah.
if you're selecting the TE1 at number 5,
that's fine.
okay, yep. I'll get behind you on it. It might suck for the first season, but if you're someone who picks 5th, who's hoping that you pick 1st the year after, yep, that's your pick.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, that's true because tight ends take a couple of years to develop. Most tight ends. I mean, even look at last year's big names, Fan, Hawkinson. I mean, they showed a little something the first year. Second year, they're starting to play better. You're starting to see consistency. Injuries hurting them, but
they hurt you for fantasy, which is what you were hoping
right.
for.
It helps you keep that number 1.
If you're that specific team and you reach at 4, okay, I get it.
Absolutely. It makes sense. So Chuba Hubbard at 1-9. We know you don't like Chuba Hubbard as much as I do. Rondale Moore at the 10. Obviously Kyle Pitts at 11, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown at the 12. So, when I look back at the first round of it, outside of obviously we having to drop Journey because of the health issues, I don't hate the first round. I mean, there's a few guys obviously that based on how we talked about, we would move around a little bit, and we would obviously bump Najee Harris out of the first round. But I think come your rookie drafts, a lot of these names are the guys you're going to be seeing there because the talent outweighs whatever the situation is going to be. And a lot of times that's what you want your first round picks to be. The best talented guys that hopefully the situation is good for them too, but the talent outweighs that, and you have to hope for the best for them. What do you think about this first round? Is there anything significantly different that you think you would do?
I mean, outside of how I feel about Hubbard, not necessarily. I'm not as super high on Amon-Ra just because I don't. He seems like someone that you draft between the 2.4 to 2.8 next year because he's going to be slightly slow and he's not going to be. He's what, 6 foot 195 or something? Like,
so.
He's just not going to test overly high. I actually think that probably the 3rd or 4th most talented player we didn't even select in the first round, but obviously that's a segue right there. Craig took Zamir White next, and honestly, if I wouldn't have had either one of the Florida tight ends hit me, he was my selection, but I kind of felt obligated there. This guy's having the game slow up for him. Everyone before the season said vision issues, and you could see that, but you could also see that he runs a 4.4 at 215, and he'll run you over. He's finally figuring it out. it would not shock me if he's the first overall selection.
Yeah, that was going to be the one name that I brought up as a guy that I think could really push himself up. I think the combine will also be huge for him. He will soar up people's draft boards once people see him at the combine. George, I'm not saying George is holding him back or anything, but he's looking better this year, and I think he will blow up at the combine because he will perform better than a lot of the guys that are ahead of him. He's going to make Najee Harris look like he's walking, and I think he'll do better than Chuba. I think he will do better than Gainwell. ETN, I mean, people love him, so I don't think the combine necessarily matters as much. But Zamir White's one of those guys that the profile, the combine, he will shoot up, and I think he will make himself probably a top 5 pick.
If you're not familiar, he suffered an ACL his senior year of high school. He got it healthy. He had about 1 week of practice, tore it. So he's got 2 ACL injuries. If he didn't have those as is, second, third, fourth overall, and that's even before like the vision
Yeah.
issues. He was when he was coming out, he was easily the number 1 pick that year. If you would have had a freshman only, he was easily number 1 that year. Some of these other ones hit throughout, but Zamir White is just his nickname Zeus. It shows. He'll run you over, and he'll run past you. I love him as a prospect.
Yeah, he's, and the thing that amazes me about him is with the ACL injuries, the explosiveness we still see with him. Sometimes those ACL injuries zap a little bit, and he still it looks like he's overcome it, and he looks like it never bothered him. The only other name, so, as we move into the second round, Zamir White, Seth Williams, Trevor Lawrence, we see quarterbacks begin to go 1 QB again, remember, 1 QB. Pat Freiermuth, Trey Sermon, Devonta Smith, Tylan Wallace, Max Borghi, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Tamarion Terry, Sage Surratt. I would think that Terry slips down into the third round the way things have gone if he gets drafted even that early. One guy that I think, as I've watched, as bad as Minnesota's looked at times, I think Mohamed Ibrahim has looked really good at the running back position. If he's a guy that comes out, I think, he's like 5'10", 5'11", mid 210, 215-ish range. He's a guy I think could really move up into the second round of rookie drafts. I like the profile. I like the player. I like what he's done, even with all the weirdness that's happened to Minnesota this year. He's got kind of a short area burst that I think really could set him apart and really help him move quickly and get out of tight situations. Small space kind of guy. I like his balance was definitely on display. Even in the Michigan game, you saw some times where he was not going down easy, and some of the things about him I like that could make him, he's got a big enough size that he could be somebody's pairing back. I like his hands. I like his speed. I'm going to keep watching film on him. I've only watched 3 or 4 games on him, I think, so far. But he's a guy that I really think could move his way up. He's one that I keep watching going, man, when I watch these Minnesota games, as much as nothing is interesting about them, I like seeing him play. So what's your take on the second round as we kind of wrap this up? Is there guys that you would bump out of the second round and move people you'd move in?
I'll get behind you on the Ibrahim. I forget the guy's name also. I know you just said him, but he looks a lot faster than I remember of him. I was never huge on Sage Surratt. Did I make
No,
that
I
pick?
made it. I made it at the end of the second.
Um, someone will love him. It's not me. Um, Also, and I like a selection that I made. Go figure. But I think that Seth Williams ultimately works his way up to the 1.6, 1.7, 1.8 range when we get finished with this, just because of the height, weight, speed, and upside of it. Um, he's made some splash plays here. As far as someone who I do not want, I'm just gonna straight up axe Justin Fields from this and add Zach Wilson. Every week I see at least something that's wow about him.
Yeah.
Um, I know we're doing this as a one QB, but if it's a super flex, it would not shock me if he's the second overall selection when we get all the way home.
No, I mean
It's gonna go fine. It wouldn't surprise
yeah,
me.
he's really shot up. Going into the season, we were all saying, well, it's probably Lawrence, Fields, Trey Lance. Those were kind of the big three, and him and Kyle Trask, and there's a few other quarterbacks that have really pushed their way into the conversation of being in kind of the top 5 to 7 quarterbacks. But I think Wilson's kind of pushed himself into I could be the number 2 quarterback, like the way that he's played, especially with teams that need quarterbacks this year. There's quite a few that his skill set fits nicely. I mean, I could easily see. I've seen a few guys mock him to San Francisco. I think he would do really well in San Francisco with his moving ability, with his arm, with the way I think he plays kind of that Shanahan West Coast type scheme really well. So there's quite a few teams that draft him that I would get excited about.
Yeah, I don't think it's San Francisco,
No,
but
I mean, but
that's a that's a different show. I do not think he makes it out of the top 10 selections when we actually make it home to the end of April. I think someone selects him top 10, and you take him second, third, or fourth overall dynasty super flex wise. Again, we're doing one QB, but
these are names. These are names to
end of the
see.
second, he would be someone that in the second round that you'd be
Yeah,
selecting.
yeah. I think another name that'll shoot up that I think Chris Olave from Ohio State is a guy that I've never really been a huge Ohio State fan in general. Coming from Michigan, I always hate them. I always hate them. I always hate them. But he's really I love his route running and I love his smoothness in and out of his breaks. I think there's some things about his game that when I watched it again this year, I was like, oh, I didn't really realize. I guess I didn't realize some of these things about him. I think he's a guy that'll push himself into the kind of the mid to late second round of rookie drafts. I could easily see that over some of the guys that I drafted there in the back half. I took Sage Surratt. I think Chris Olave could go, there even, or even maybe just a slightly ahead of it. But there's so many receivers that are coming in this draft that are going to be fun to review and fun to look at. I think Seth Williams is one because he prototypes kind of that big X receiver. Like teams draft that higher just because he fits that type of role. So I agree with you. He certainly could move his way up higher in the NFL draft and rookie drafts. So there's quite a few names that I think could push their way in. As I started looking at it again, preparing, I was like, wow, some of these guys that I drafted, like Sage Surratt, I'm like, yeah, may not have been the best decision.
If you're going to hit on a school that you hate, so am I. Kadarius
Oh
Toney
yeah, yep.
out of Florida seems likely to go in the late second, early third, or fourth, because someone in the NFL is going to say, "Hey, we need slot
Mm-hmm.
receiver." I wouldn't co-sign making that selection for the actual NFL, but KJ Hamler went 40th
Yeah,
overall.
I think so. Right around there.
I mean, I mean, he's someone that's really showing out this year. Um, I, yeah, I like him as a prospect. I hate the school he goes to. My Seminoles are awful. I want to cry a little bit.
Yeah, well, hopefully
Yep.
hopefully that coaching staff fixes it for the future. Year one.
Yeah.
And a name that Craig brought up, Hunter Long. I think everybody's starting to see that. What Craig's been talking about. I was looking around pre-show, and the Draft Network is some of the places I look at. Have moved him up firmly as their number 4 tight end behind the big three. So he's a guy that obviously tight end premium could wind up moving himself into the early second, probably even higher depending on where he goes.
We didn't mention it. The big three is Freiermuth as well,
Right, yeah.
who they've looked awful as a team, but
Yeah.
he'll probably end up being in the second or third round. And depending on your league, you might take him late first if it's a TE league, or you might take him at the end of the second because you just want to punt tight end position in your league every single season.
Right.
I take that strategy in some of my leagues. Just hope one of them works
Absolutely.
out. But yeah.
So I think that is it. I think that's kind of our review of our first mock. Now, obviously, we'll be doing another one here soon, so that this could even change again. We've got other guys on the team that want to jump on board and get involved, so we're going to try to rotate some folks in, and we might just do it offline if we have enough people do it, and then just kind of go through it and review it on the show. But, keep it locked in here. rotoheat.com. We've got our Discord chat. We've got our Facebook community. We've got Twitter. We've got here on YouTube, obviously, and wherever you stream your podcast, we are there as well. We thank you guys for always just hanging out with us. If you have questions, hit us up, and we'll talk to you again next time.
Peace.
Also, right there, playlist. Hit it. Watch the videos. Do it.